Welcome to FINA Aquatics World. In this month's programme, we'll cover the final two legs of the FINA Midea Diving World Series. Over the course of the show, we sit down with a British swimming legend and we follow the American top swimmers at the Charlotte UltraSwim. The third stop out of 4 of the FINA Midea Diving World Series calendar brought the world's diving elite to Russia's capital, Moscow, and we'll focus on the individual finals. He Chong had won the 2 opening legs in the 3-metre springboard, and going into the Moscow event, he could secure the overall title with a third straight win, as the runner-up so far, his compatriot Qin Kai, didn't take part in this leg. Instead, 2 home divers provided the toughest competition for the reigning world and Olympic champion. Ilya Zakharov and Evgeny Kuznetsov claimed silver and bronze behind He Chong at the 2011 FINA World Championships. And once again, they challenged the mighty Chinese diver.
He Chong is going for his most difficult forward dive in his selection. It's not a bad effort from He Chong. We could see he was just slightly off the correct angle of entry. We're still going to see plus 80 points here.
Well, He Chong took a firm grip of the final, with this his penultimate effort. Time now for the last round for the top 3 divers.
Final dive, forward, 4.5 somersault, tuck position. Not a bad effort. Not a bad way to finish off for Ilya Zakharov.
Ilya Zakharov secured a top 3 finish with that dive, but would it be enough to pass his compatriot Evgeny Kuznetsov?
Well, it will be enough for sure. Kuznetsov will take the silver. He'll even challenge He Chong for the gold. The pressure now firmly applied to the young man from China.
Kuznetsov showed his class, ending the competition on a high, and now only He Chong remained.
Well, he hasn't just won, he has blown the pool away. He Chong finishing in style.
Well, there you have it. He Chong shows why he is regarded as one of the sport's greatest throughout history. With only weeks to go until the Olympic Games in London, He Chong is aiming to defend his title from Beijing 4 years ago and can gain confidence from his vast experience.
觉得很多情绪上面能控制吧。
I think I can control a lot of my emotional energy that builds up in competitions and even in training, and I can remain calm and focus on my thoughts. This helps me overcome technical mistakes that can be avoided. This is all thanks to my recovery training after my injury, just after the Beijing Games.
接下来一些的比赛，能让自己做出一个调整，我觉得这是奥运会后的一些转变吧。
In the women's 3-metre final, the audience was treated to a Chinese battle between Wu Minxia and He Qi, who could both boast a first and second place from the 2 previous World Series competitions. The only other diver close to the Chinese duo was Italy's diving queen, Tania Cagnotto.
Well, that's going to put her on the podium. I don't think she'll be able to challenge for the top 2 rungs, but a very strong finish for Tania Cagnotto from Italy.
A good day's work for Tania, which gave her 3rd place here in Moscow, but the fight for the top spot was a fierce one. He Qi had a 14.25-point lead ahead of the final round.
Oh, well, we see the heels entering the water there, causing a bit of a splash up. It might have actually just opened up this competition.
A disastrous final effort by her, and this gave Wu Minxia a chance to challenge for the victory.
Well, if that's not going to put the pressure on, I don't know what is. Wu Minxia has delivered her best dive today.
Only 3/4 of a point separated the 2, and despite that final round hiccup, it was He Qi who could smile the most, as her score of 353.30 points was enough for victory and the overall lead in the World Series. In the men's 10-metre platform final, British diving's poster boy Tom Dady was hoping to finally get a victory following 2 second-place finishes previously in the series. But it was not to be this time either, despite this impressive final dive.
Well, Daly as well has been one of the most consistent divers throughout. A very, very clean dive to finish on.
The victor was instead China's Lin Yue, making his first appearance in this year's FINA Midea Diving World Series.
A safe dive will hand him the win. Lin Yue will claim gold in the men's platform final here in Moscow.
Well, the reigning Olympic synchro champion Lin Yue showed that he's got what it takes to win on his own as well. Finally, in the women's 10-metre platform, it was a one-woman show as China's Chen Rulin took her third straight win in the series, this time more than 30 points ahead of her closest rival. This, her fourth dive, gained the most points, 82.50.
Chen Rulin will take the gold medal here in Moscow.
With a host of gold medals from both the Olympic Games and the FINA World Championships, Chen is working hard to continue her winning streak this summer.
感觉上啊，会更熟悉。
I am more mature than before because I took part in a lot of competitions, so I'm gaining more experience.
大赛经验也会足一点。为了
All the hard and late work will be worth it if I can go to London in 2012.
练得再晚都值得。
We'll return to the final event of the FINA Midea Diving World Series 2012 later in the programme.
The last male athlete to win a gold medal in an Olympic swimming pool for this year's host nation, Great Britain, was breaststroker Adrian Morehouse. The boy from Bradford took gold in 1988 in Seoul over 100 meter in a discipline where Team GB had excelled previously through names like David Wilkie and the instantly recognizable Duncan Goodhew.
If one person breaks the mold and he's seen to be fairly normal, everybody else follows. And I think we were really lucky in the 70s. We had a cluster of world-class breaststrokers. And when I came up, I was already world-class before I even started to win any reasonable races. So it was just one more step to win.
Goodhew's medal came 8 years earlier in Moscow as he kept the local favorite, Arsen Miskarov's, behind him to win in a time of 1:03.34. Nowadays, the chirpy Brit is involved in important charity work, arranging swimathons where the proceeds go to various good causes.
Oh, Swimathon's been just fantastic. It's a swim marathon for funding, and also fundraisers for charity. And our swimmers over the years have raised over £34 million for good causes, which is an incredible achievement. But more than that, what it is to me, it's a way of getting people to swim over winter months and really engage in a challenge of swimming.
Goodhew knows all about challenges, not just the sporting variety. Growing up in England can be tough for young boys, but a special set of circumstances made it even tougher for the young man from Sussex. An affliction called alopecia robbed him entirely of his body hair, and being dyslexic, he became an instant target for school bullies.
I mean, I was bald dyslexic as a kid. Didn't go well, and swimming was my lifeline. I rebuilt my life through it. And so I've been always keen to try and help out where I can. And out of that, I've got certain business interests that have grown. It's funny how sometimes things that happened in your past that might have been quite difficult, if you can find the silver lining and run with it, it does make your life a lot easier. Go with the grain, not against it.
Goodhew's Olympic debut came about in 1976 in Montreal, and the experience was a wake-up call for the young Brit who was donning the national colors for the first time.
my first Olympics was my first swim for Great Britain. So when I got into the call room just before the event, where the 8 fastest people in the world, in the most profound silence you've ever heard, I mean, the silence was oppressive, and it was like somebody pulled the plug out of the room and I went down the plug hole.
That plug hole proved not to lead to anywhere but the training pools in which Goodhew decided to mount a new challenge for Olympic recognition. 4 years later, Moscow beckoned, and this time it was a different story.
By the time Moscow came along, my head was in the right place, my body was nearly in the right place, and when I went into that call room, I sat down in the corner and read a book, which really put everybody else off and kept me absolutely focused.
With the games so close that the swimmers can smell the chlorine, the wonderful Mr. Goodhew gave us his tips for British glory this summer.
Well, I mean, of course, you got Becky, but will she win too? We'll wait and see what happens to her main arch rival, Carrie-Anne Payne, of course. And the rest of the girls, none of them strikes me as ones that you'd say will win gold. But six medals is definitely possible, and I suspect we might even nudge up to 10. So I'm really excited by the prospects of this summer.
Coming up after the break, the FINA Midea Diving World Series continues in Tijuana. A new medal contender has arisen in the Olympic open water competition. And Michael Phelps is in focus in Charlotte. Welcome back. In part 2 of FINA Aquatics World, we visit Tijuana for the final of the FINA Midea Diving World Series. Oussama Mellouli takes on the open water. But first, we head to the USA for the Charlotte UltraSwim.
The last FINA World Championships and the Beijing Olympics have provided many fantastic results and different answers. But perhaps the strongest lesson to be learned from those championships is that one country stands above the rest at the moment, and that is the USA. The Charlotte UltraSwim is one of the most important dress rehearsals for the American swimmers, just 6 weeks ahead of the US Olympic trials. The biggest star on show in the Mecklenburg County Aquatic Center was, of course, Michael Phelps. Phelps, a 14-time Olympic champion, is aiming for his 4th Olympic experience in London this summer, and the Charlotte Ultra is his final competition ahead of the all-important US Olympic trials. The 200-meter butterfly is Phelps' main event, and naturally Phelps in lane 5 was hoping to gauge his form. But the opposition was stiff, with China's Wu Peng in lane 3, who beat Phelps twice in 5 weeks in 2011, the second time at last year's UltraSwim.
Michael's starting to stretch it out just a little bit. You can see everybody else starting to go up and down. Michael traveling forward.
So this is Wu Peng, though. Yes, Wu Peng has a slight lead on Phelps. Can Michael pull off his magic at the wall? Let's see. It will be Wu Peng to win it. Wu Peng wins it by 18/100ths. Phelps second, Russo third.
A fantastic battle between two great swimmers, and once again Wu came out victorious. Earlier in the meet, Phelps had also lost the 200-meter freestyle final to home swimmer Ricky Behrens. So he obviously has a thing or two to work on, as he will fine-hone his form in virtual seclusion at high altitude in Colorado Springs. The women's splash and dash saw a heavy favourite and two-time FINA breaststroke world champion Jessica Hardy in lane number 4.
That opens the doors for so many swimmers. Once again, wide open. Jessica Hardy has to be a huge favorite, though. to make the Olympic team in this event, the 50 freestyle, and she's got the 100 breast. Not many swimmers can say they can swim sprint breast and sprint free. She's right there in lane number 4.
In lane 2, Madison Kennedy blasted out. This might be her race. Hardy trying to come in at the end, and the touch goes to Hardy. She got there at 24.83.
A good showing from Jessica Hardy, who will make her Olympic debut in London, and maybe the 50 free will be one of her chosen events. Tunisia's Olympic 1500-meter champion Oussama Mellouli stole the limelight in the 400-meter freestyle by winning in a respectable time of 350.17.
Might just be under 350. And the good thing about the Americans, especially for Houchen, is at least he's breathing to Mellouli, but I don't think he's going to catch him.
Connor Jager's making a push too, but it'll be Mellouli to win it in 350.17. Houchen gets second and Jager third.
Ryan Lochte is, together with Michael Phelps, the USA's biggest hope ahead of the London Games. Last year at the FINA World Championships in Shanghai, he claimed 4 individual gold medals, in comparison to Phelps's 2. At the moment, Lochte is under a heavy training regime, and despite entering a host of events in Charlotte, he only bagged 1 victory in the 200-meter individual medley.
Well, here in Charlotte the last couple of years, they haven't seen much of the real Lochte because of his training regimen. This round, he looks to be more like it.
I haven't seen much of Ryan Lochte.
This looks to be more like it. It comes in at 57.63, which is the 3rd fastest time in the world this year. Phelps has the fastest. Pereira, Brazilian swimmer, 2nd.
Despite being more than 3.5 seconds off his own world record, the impression was a good one. And with a few more weeks of fine-tuning his form, the swimming world can expect big things from this man later in the year. That sums up our coverage from the Charlotte UltraSwim. The US trials will begin on the 25th of June in Omaha, and there will be do or die for the American stars aiming for London.
Well, it's time to return to the FINA Midea Diving World Series and the 4th and final stop of the 2012 season. Tijuana in Mexico and its high-performance sports center provided the backdrop for the event, and an impressive field of divers had entered the competition in their hunt for a good place in the overall World Series rankings. Well, the biggest star on exhibition in Tijuana was not one of the big Olympic favourites from China. Instead, all eyes were on the local darling, Paula Espinosa. The 2009 FINA World Champion and synchro bronze medalist is a celebrated hero in Mexico, and this event on home soil was a golden opportunity to fine-hone her skills ahead of the London Olympics.
A nice dive for Paula Espinosa, keeping the crowd happy.
As the winner of the first 3 events, China's Chen Rulin didn't participate in Mexico. Espinosa was the pre-event favourite, and she didn't disappoint.
She needs about 56 points to win this. Oh. I'll let the crowd respond to that.
A wonderful series of dives secured the victory for Espinosa, to the delight of the large and passionate home crowd. In the springboard final, however, it was back to normal as China's superstar He Qi controlled proceedings all the way. Italy's Tania Cagnotto had a solid series but had to focus on keeping USA's Christina Laukas behind her in order to secure the silver.
She scores very well. Just watching from the initial approach, she was very confident with that little skip into the final bounce.
Cagnotto was, however, not able to reach the heights of He Qi.
Well, I mentioned quick and smooth, 2 characteristics that were demonstrated brilliantly here.
He Qi claimed her 3rd victory in the 2012 World Series and the overall title as well, of course. In the synchro finals, there was some heated action. On the women's side, it was China all the way as two constellations claimed a clean sweep of 4 straight victories within the series. Wu Minxia and He Xi dominated the springboard events, while the platform finals went to Chen Ru Lin and Wang Hao. On the men's side, it was much more open. China's Qin Kai and Luo Yutong won the final event in the 3-meter springboard, but a third place here in Tijuana was enough for Ukraine's duo, Alexei Prigorov and Ilya Kvasha, to hold on to their overall lead. In the 10-meter platform, David Budea and Nick McCrory from the US showed good form, winning the final event, but they were 3 points short of reaching Brits Tom Daley and Peter Waterfield in the overall standings. He Chong, the winner of the 3 previous events in the World Series, chose to pass on the Tijuana event, and instead his teammate Qin Kai waved the flag for China in a duel against Russia's Ilya Zakharov. Victory for Qin Kai in Tijuana, and Qin will most likely join his compatriot He Chong in London in his hunt to better the bronze medal he claimed in Beijing. The men's 10-meter platform final is often regarded as the most prestigious event in the diving world, and a lot of focus in the last 4 years has been put on the battle between the top Chinese divers and Great Britain's wonder kid Tom Daley. One man who knows more about Daley than most others is his coach, Andy Banks.
And it's always been interesting because obviously he's got a massive talent. You know, he looks great, he spins well, and he's got that fantastic entry into the water, which I'd love to say that I taught him, but actually that's pretty natural. It's been the emotional side, I think, of him that has been the interesting bit, because he used to get very, very upset either in training or competition if something wasn't going right, and either the training session or the competition would almost be out of the window and forfeited off the back of that. So we had to try and find a way of helping him to discard those emotions and come back in and either carry on with the training session or put the dive behind him and move on to the next dive in the competition. And I think over the 10 years, he's managed to do that pretty well now.
In Tijuana, Daley didn't have to face his arch-rival Chu Bo or any of the top Chinese divers. Instead, the stiffest competition came from American David Budea, looking for his second title here in Mexico.
And it is a good finish. It's far from his best dive here today. In fact, I think it's one of his lowest scoring dives, considering how difficult it was.
Well, not a brilliant finish to his competition, but Budea at least secured the runner-up spot. The pressure now on Tom Daley to deliver when everyone expects you to win.
Well, he has absolutely blown the competition away here. A great finish for Thomas Daley.
A sensational victory for Daley and an overall performance here in Mexico with a score 562.85 that will put pressure on the Chinese, no doubt. With this showing, Daley can be confident going into the home Olympics later on in the summer.
But my goals and expectations for the Olympics are just to go out there, try and do the best performance I can, try and soak up all the atmosphere with the support from the home crowd, and obviously go in there and try my best and hopefully win a medal.
Tom Daley is one of the poster boys for the London Olympics, and securing the overall victory in the 2012 FINA Midea Diving World Series does nothing to remove the spotlight from this British icon.
Oussama Mellouli will not only defend his 1,500-meter freestyle crown in London this summer, but will take on the 10-kilometer marathon as well, after winning the open water FINA Olympic qualifier off the Portuguese coast. Always on the shoulder of the leaders for the first of 4 circuits at Setubal, Mellouli, the California-based African who denied Grant Hackett a third 1,500-meter Olympic medal in Beijing, took the lead on the 5th lap and swept to victory 11 seconds ahead of Canadian Richard Weinberger, with Bulgarian Petar Stoichev a further 15 seconds adrift.
Well, that's it for this episode. We'll be back in a month's time with more aquatics action. Until then, thanks for watching. Bye for now.